Hello my crafty friends, it's Beverleigh here over at Crafting Chaos, and I'm here with part 2 of my second day of Christmas in my Christmas series for 2019. And this one is just to make a simplistic tag, but which is involving a little bit of welding, a little bit of punching out, and also hopefully make it a really pretty tag. So all I've done is just brought on my selection of snowflakes that I have. And all I've done to get this selection is just look for snowflakes, free images on the internet, and trace them in Scan and Cut. And like I've said, this series isn't about tracing, it's more about creating the actual days of Christmas. If you do want to watch a video on tracing elements, I'll try to remember to leave a link to a file or a video below so that you can actually see how that process works. Right, so in order to get on with our tags now, I'm going to start off by bringing on a rectangle, or rather a square. Doesn't really matter because we're going to resize it anyway, and we're going to resize and we're going to make it about 10 inches wide and about 2.75 inches in height, because I quite fancied the idea of having a longish narrow tag for this particular card. So what I'm going to do now is just going to drag a line just so I can, well, one line would have been good, Beverleigh. So what I'm doing is using the path tool just to drag a line out, double click, I've done it again. I don't know why it's going off to the side. It was doing this the other day and I have no idea why. It's just like the computer's not catching up with itself. Double click and I've got that line now. I'm just using it just roughly so I can see by eye where roughly the centre of this rectangle on this side is. Next I'm going to take a circle. So we're just going to use a basic shaped circle, and I'm going to resize it till it's about 2.25. so I'm going to do that using the resizing, and I want it 2.25 on both the X and the Y. Now I'm going to position this so that it's roughly in the middle, so that I've got a rough sort of even amount between the two. And I might just take that down to 2 actually. So I'm just going to go slightly smaller still. And again, I'm just going to position so that we're roughly, and I might just scooch this along a minute. I'm going to just put the snap to grid function on so we can snap it to an inch line. And I'm going to snap this one to it as well, and we can see where we're at. And then if I do to 1/2 inches and snap this one, we should be able to get that dead perfectly in the centre, because now you can see we've got 1.5 inches to the left and 1.5 inches to the right. And then I'm going to select both of those and I'm just going to line them up to the centre axis like so. So now I'm just going to get rid of that line for now. I'm going to get rid of that line for now. We'll put a score line back in later, but just right now I just want this. So I'm going to select everything and I'm going to subtract. And now basically I've just punched a hole, a circle, into that piece of card, if you will. Well, it's not a piece of card, is it? But it's like a pretend piece of card. So next I'm going to bring on my snowflake. This is the one I'm going to use, and I'm going to resize. In fact, I'm going to resize it to 2.1. I really need to check that maintain aspect ratio, then I don't need to keep doing everything twice. So now what I'm going to do is just bring this to the top. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just positioning this so that we are in the centre. Now I'm going to need to take off that snap to grid icon now, and I'm going to zoom in because I'm going to have to do this a little bit by eye. So I'm going to just use my, just scooch it back up again faster because I still had it on, and I'm going to do it so that each of these points is overlapping that circle by round about the same amount. And when I'm happy, I'm going to view, display, zoom objects to matte. I'm going to select both of those, both the snowflake and that, and we're going to process the overlap and weld. So now basically what we've got is a nice snowflake punched but welded to that, so you get that hole with the snowflake in it. Right, so what we're going to do next is I'm going to just put that snap to grid back on now so I can snap it back up to a line, and I'm going to do my score line. So I'm going to select, drag out, double click to anchor, make it a perforating line, and we're going to centre that using the centre line here, align centre. So now we've got our dotted line, our fold line if you will, for our tag. I'm not going to group it just yet, but I will be doing that at a later time, so soon. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to make I'm going to make the tag have that cutout sort of top if you will. So I'm going to select a shape, and I'm going to try this one. I'm going to have a look how this is looking, and I think that's going to be okay. I'm just going to need to shrink it down a little so I can get it in. And again, if we get it on, with this one, and we want to centre it, whoops, so we need this and this. It's not letting me select. Oh, there we go. Does help if you're pressing the right button. And I'm going to scooch this down, not quite so much, and then I'm going to duplicate it, I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to scoot it down, and again let's just line everything up to the middle, and we're going to scooch this down a little bit now. Okay, so I'm going to select both of those now, and we're going to group them, and then we're going to take that one and centre it like so. And what I'm going to do next is just selecting those shapes and the back card, I'm going to subtract, and that's given us a nice sort of cut out detail at the top where our tag shape might be. Look at when it folds. So what we're going to do next is we're going to select everything and scoot it down so that it's again now on a score line, and we're going to take another shape, and we're going to, let's try this one, and we're going to scoot that along, and I'm going to duplicate it. So what I'm doing basically is lining that up with the end of the tag, and I've just got it so that it's going to cut that quarter off if you will. So I've lined it up by, and I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to bring it down and line, oops, I'm going to duplicate it, I'm going to flip this way, and we're going to move this across, up one. So now that should be in the same position, but just, oops, didn't mean to do that, I've just moved it by accident. So I'm going to select both of those and the centre one, So we need this and this and this, and we're going to subtract, and now what we've got is that is now taken that off there. So now I'm going to move that up so that the bottom is on the grid line, and I'm going to move this up so it's in the same position. So I want to be I'm going to bring it to the front, and I'm going to flip it, and really we're just trying to get it so it's lined up with that axis, and we're just going to take that snap to grid off function just for a second while we scoot it along to there, gone too far, so that that intersection is cutting off that as well. So then we're going to duplicate that and flip it, and we're going to move that across. We want to make sure that it's snap it to the grid first on that one. So now that's snapped to the grid, take that off now, and I can move it across until it's at, I'll just zoom in so you can see where I'm going. So I want this part here where that X is to be touching that line, so that it's going to be the same angle as the last one. Okay, so that's that. We'll display fit to map. Select both of those and the centre one, and again we're going to subtract. So that's made our tag shape so we can fold, etc. So next I'm going to take a duplicate of that and move it down like so, and I just want half of it now, so I'm going to bring on a square, oops, and we're going to line it up. Let's get that snap to grid back on so we can line it up to a grid line, so that the centre is lined to a grid line, and now we can scooch this along till it's at the same grid line, make it a bit longer than the tag, and select them both, and we're going to process the overlap and subtract. So that is now sort of that piece, but just this part, not the whole thing. So now we're going to create an offset, and we want to come inward, and we're going to make it by 0.8 and say OK. Now I did only just have, I didn't actually, I'll do that again, offset inward, and we just want the outer edge only. So we need to just make sure that we've got that, and we want inward. We do need just that round it inward, say OK, and now we should have, now if this happens like we've got here, all we need to do is just weld it out. For some reason it's not letting me just do the outer edge, so that's not an issue. I'm just going to make a square that fits inside, and we need that snap to grid off so we can actually make it slightly less, and we're going to select all of those, and we are going to then weld. So that's just welded out. I can delete that now. So now that should be a perfect matting layer for underneath, so that you can have, so let's just have a look, somewhere for you to write your details if you wish, but really it's just to have something at the back that's showing through that fits the card. So we're just going to position it by eye, and I think we're fairly even there, and then I'm going to send it to the back So now you can see that's the kind of effect we would get. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to get it on that snap to grid, and I'm going to line it up to a grid line like so. Because what we need to do now is we're going to add a score line here, so that that part can be stuck to this part, so that it gives us a nice place for our hole, if you will, for our ribbon or for our baker's twine or whatever we intend to use. So I'm just going to bring on a circle, and I'm going to shrink it right down to less than that. So I want it to be about a quarter of an inch. We'll let just under a quarter of an inch. We'll try that. And again, I've not got the maintain the aspect ratio, so I'll just have to sort that out. And we're going to position this and the circle, so we need to select both, like so, and we're going to centre it and in the middle. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, whilst it's selected, I'm going to duplicate it, and also again we're going to send it to the middle like so by doing centre, align centre and middle. We're going to click on that first one, and we're going to move it to the right, and then we're going to click on this one and move it to the left. So it's moved it exactly the same position on both sides of that centre line, which is what we want. Now we do need a duplicate of this one, so I'm just going to line that one up to centre, and now with just the middle one selected, I'm going to scooch it along so that it's exactly on top of that one, like so. Then we're going to select the circle and the main card, and we're going to subtract, so that's given us a line there. Then we're going to arrange and centre back. Then we're going to do the same thing for the pattern, which is why we needed two, so that's in exactly the same place, and arrange, and we're going to send it to the back. And then finally for the blue layer, just selecting the circle on the main card and punching it out. So basically what we've done now is created a punch line that will punch exactly in the same place where we need it to be for our liner and for our main card, like so. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to select, if I can, the scoring line, and we're going to zoom in and have a look at it, and we're going to bring it to the front so we can see it on top of our work, and we can see that we do need to resize that a little. So I'm just resizing and moving it into the centre. I need to take off the snap to grid just so that I can get those dotted lines, if you will, so that they're not touching either this edge or this edge, so that it's not going to weaken the card. Okay, so that's where we're up to now. So that's partly our tag. I'm going to zoom for everything to match size, and then all I did then was took a couple of my different snowflakes. So I think I'm going to use these two for this. Oh, I didn't really want to do that. We're going to take this one and we're going to resize by shrinking it down, and we're going to see, we're just going to have some of these so that we can stick them onto our tag once it's done. So we're bringing it to the front. We'll zoom in a little bit, and then we'll position the snowflake that we've just resized, and we can have it so it's slightly hanging off, and we can always trim off the extra. I'm going to make a duplicate of that one, and maybe put that one over here as well. And then I'm also going to use this one, and you could cut these in different colours, it's entirely your choice. I'm just going to resize that one, and I'm going to duplicate it. Let's see where we're at, so we can move this one here, and maybe this one we can manoeuvre. Oops, needs to be at the top so we can see what we're doing. Bring to front and position that on like so, and I might just make that one a little bit bigger. In fact, I'm going to make that one a bit smaller, but I'm going to have it hanging off, and then I'm also going to just do this one a little bit bigger so that, oops, make sure we're moving that. Okay, so that's where we're up to now. So you could add as many or as few as you wish. You can even hang them off, and I would cut them and then just arrange them and then trim afterwards. What you could do if you want to cut them as they are so that they fit perfect is if you bring on a square, so if you want to do them so that they fit, if you will, you could, I'm going to just get that snap to grid icon on again so I can line up to the bottom of that card. Now select it, oh not that one, select the square and the snowflake and subtract, so that would just give you half a snowflake. And if you wanted to do that, by all means you could do that, or you could just stick them on hanging over, and then you could trim them off with your scissors. So it's entirely your choice. Okay, there's just one thing left to do now, and that's to add the score line here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the spacing to an inch, and I'm going to bring on my score. In fact, I'm going to take it down to 1/4 of an inch, and then I can get from there. I'm going to drag out my line, double click to anchor, and I'm going to make it a scoring line, and I just need to make sure that it's just a little bit shorter than it is, so that I don't have that issue with weakening my card. Whoops. Now when it does that and it moves, it just means it's still on snap to grid, so it's not letting me move it by tiny increments, which I need to. I could just do with it, could use to be a little bit longer, so I'm just going to make it about 265 and see how that's looking, and we'll just adjust it like so. Okay, so that looks okay. I'm just going to move it down ever so slightly, just to preserve the edges of the card so that they're not going to be weakened by the fold line. So then I'm going to display zoom fit to mat, and that is our tag. Just going to bring on my snowflakes so that ones I didn't use. So that's our tag. Now obviously once you've made that, you can make it as many times as you want. You can change the colours, change the backing layer, because obviously that would change the look of your tag. Whatever you have at the back is going to make it look different, and so on. But that one will fit perfectly and also give you the hole where it needs to be, in exactly the place where it needs to be when you line it up and you're sticking it all together. So that is our second day of Christmas snowflake tag. I hope you've enjoyed the video. There's quite a few bits and pieces that we've gone through there. Now just to review what these two score lines are for, once you've got everything sort of stuck on, I would, when you've folded these score lines, put the glue on the opposite side to where I'm showing you now, around here. Fold it too, and that will stick that top bit to this top bit, meaning that then even though it's going to be tagged together there, the tag's still going to be able to open freely because it's not going to be tied at the top. It's going to have this score line here where it's going to open on your card nicely. Alright, so that is the tag. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please like, share and subscribe. Make sure you tell your friends where to find me. As always, this one will be available on my blog from whenever the video goes live on YouTube. If you're watching the YouTube video, then this file will be free on my blog to download if you wish. Or you can have a go at making your own. Incidentally, you could always have a go at making your own snowflakes using a similar method to what I've shown you how to make the flowers in a previous video. You can always look that one back on how to do the rotation so you get the symmetry. Okay, so that's it for now. I hope you've enjoyed watching it, and I'll see you in part 3, which will be the 3rd day of Christmas. Thanks for watching, and bye.